everyone, and welcome to the Evolve with Emily show YouTube channel. The best way to support the show on this YouTube channel is to subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, and or share it with a friend. I hope that you guys enjoy this episode, and whichever way you choose to support the show, I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much. I hope that today's message and episode brings some bit of positive change to your life. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Evolve with Emily show. I am your host, Emily Hayden, and today I am joined by Megan. Megan, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You were briefly on a current episode, so if they've seen that, they already know who you are, but just in case they don't watch every single episode that I put out, could you give us a little intro? Who are you? What are you doing in mi casa?
I know. Well, I was actually your assistant in 2016.
Were you? I'm kidding.
Well,
you looked at me like I didn't know that.
Well, I mean, they might not.
I know.
Well, also, I mean,
No,
maybe
ahead.
it was all a dream and everything's a simulation. But so
that's a different video.
I was your assistant in 2016, 2017. And then we just went our separate ways. We both went through a lot of growth, a lot of hardships, a lot of challenges. Mm-hmm. And then you made this joke on Instagram, and I took you up on the offer, and here we are. I'm here for a month. I'm so grateful because just seeing this podcast room that inspired me to have my own podcast room and to really just go all in on guests and interviewing. It's just amazing to be here and be in your presence and watch you interview others and just experience your space. So thank you so much for having me.
Of course. It's been a joy to have you in my space. And I told you, I'm so happy to have you here because you were this ray of sunshine in my life. And I really mean that. And also you clean a lot, which is awesome.
I'm a sparkling ray of sunshine.
and you clean. No, if you guys don't know, I love to keep my house clean, but having somebody else that has that same standard for themselves is just so nice to be around.
Yeah, she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just swifting the floors. She's like, it's 1 p.m. on a Monday. I'm like, I know.
She's literally on a call, like swifting the floors. Is it swifting? Is that a word?
Swifting, yeah.
That is a word. Okay.
That's a word.
Okay, cool.
It's a word if you make it a word.
Okay, I'm down. So I hear that you have some questions for me.
I do. I want to go way, way, way back. In my research here, I was just watching a vlog of yours from 5 years ago. And I want to go back further than that, though.
Okay.
So I want you to talk about, all I remember, this is the first time I ever actually realized that you were someone I wanted to be around and know, is when you told the story about you leaving work in your bathing suit and flip-flops. And I know we're throwing it way back, but can you just briefly touch on that? Because that is a core memory in my head of Emily Hayden. When you lost your job, you were living in your car, you barely had shoes, you had flip-flops. That story to me was the moment when I realized this is someone that I feel comfortable following because I know they're not just smoke and mirrors. And that story for me made me latch on to you as a human.
Why?
Because you were so real. I think that in that time of the internet, there were so many people who were like, hi, I make protein pancakes. Follow me and you'll learn how to make protein pancakes too.
I also have protein pancake recipes up there.
But you led with this sense of, I know what it's like to have nothing. And I'm going to work my ass off every single day. So that's no longer an option for me. And just to bring it back to when you moved into this house, you made a story, or it was in a video, and you were like, I remember when all I wanted was a carpet. And now look at what I have. It's such an important part of your story that I've not heard you tell in a very, very long time. And I think even just a brief overview, because it's who you were that allowed you to be who you are today. Because if you grew up in sunshine and rainbows, you would not be who you are. And just an example on that, in 2016, in 3.5 months, just take that into account, you were in prep, you launched an app, you ran fitness challenges, you won the First Form Top Trainer Award, you got signed as an Alpha Elite athlete, you were published in Oxygen magazine, you placed 3rd in a national show, and you traveled the U.S. doing fitness workshops, and you said you were good, but you could be better.
Did that really all happen in 3 months?
So that would not be possible if you didn't have this beginning that made you hungry for more.
Wow. You're really bringing it back here and bringing back so many memories that I feel so far away from me. It feels like a completely different lifetime. And maybe that's why, like you're saying, you haven't heard me talk about it in a long time, because it feels like many lifetimes ago that I experienced what you're talking about. And yeah, so, you know, I feel like I had an amazing childhood. There's a lot of difficult things that happened, of course. But it kind of all came crashing down for me when my parents got divorced senior year of high school. In my mind, even though our family was a little dysfunctional in a lot of ways, it was my family and I loved it, you know? And so to have my entire family like literally ripped apart and to be isolated from my entire family through that divorce and just the ugliness and nastiness of it all, it was one of the worst divorces ever. To experience that and then to be isolated from my siblings, my sisters, my brothers, and my dad, and then eventually isolated from my mom as well, and be completely on my own at the age of 16, it was really difficult. I experienced loneliness and isolation like I've never experienced before. At the age of 16, I was having to fully provide for myself, which I didn't mind. Like, I can work hard. I can get multiple jobs. Like, that's not an issue. You know, I just looked at it like, okay, what is the problem? The problem is that I'm on my own alone with nowhere to live and I need money. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go to school, 16 hours of coursework, and I'm going to get as many jobs as I have to pay for my school and my tuition and to pay for my food and gas and whatever I need. So for me, I didn't worry about, I wasn't trying to live my best life by any means. I literally worked and went to school, and that was it. And the moment that you're referring to is, you know, there was a period of my life where, like I said, I was separated from everybody. And I hadn't made contact again with my dad and siblings that I had been separated from. And because of that, I was in this really awkward phase in between where I was couch surfing, essentially. I had a few really good friends who I stayed with them for a little while, and then, you know, I would have somewhere else to stay, so I would move. And there were times in between that where I didn't have anywhere to stay. So I stayed inside of my car, and I would sleep in my car inside of the parking lot at LA Fitness in Sugar Land. And then I would get up and I worked a lot. So it wasn't even like a real sleep. It was like
nap.
It was a little nap, and like no one really ever noticed, you know, because like I got to work at like 5 a.m. or I would train at 5 a.m. sometimes. Right. And then work right after. And then I was working till like 10 p.m. or 11. If I hung out with people, that'd be even later. Right. And then, so it really wasn't that big of a deal. And I just remembered there was one moment in the car where I was just had this realization, because the way that I refer to myself back then is I was kind of like this walking zombie. I was doing what I knew I had to do, and I was feeling nothing.
Right.
But I remember, and that was, you know, obviously like a defense mechanism, because it was too heavy to feel. There was moments in my life leading up to that where I was feeling and feeling and feeling, and it was so dark and it was so bad that I had to turn off in order to survive. So that was a full-on survival, you know, instinct that just kicked in.
But remember, your darkness is not that dark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. And so I was in this spot where I was in my car, and I just had this realization. I was like, I'm alone. I'm literally in my car. I have no one, and I have nothing. And I broke down, and I felt that. I actually felt it, and I hadn't been feeling anything. So I felt that to my core. And I just made a decision. I was like, I will never be in this position again. I will never allow my life to get here, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to never be here again, you know? And from that moment forward, I just kicked it into overdrive. You know, I was willing to work every single shift. I was willing to do every single thing I had to get as far away from that pain as possible. And that's what I did. And I feel like that really difficult season of my life really instilled a ton of drive into me. You know, and there's another monumental moment right after that one where, you know, from that moment on, I was like, my ticket out of this is getting admitted to Texas A&M University and going back there, because I'd been there for a summer, and then I went back to Houston for that first freshman year. And that's where it was the hardest part of my life. And I knew if I got back to Texas A&M that I could live in the dorms. And so I'd have a good place to live, and I could have a meal plan, and I could get loans, and I could get scholarships, and I could do the college thing, and I could, you know, have a life essentially. So my whole goal, I was so driven and so focused. I was always calling the admissions office, updating them. Hey, like, these are my grades currently. What are you thinking? Do you think I'm going to get back in? And my whole goal was to get back in, you know? And I remember they actually called me before I got the letter, and the woman at the office called me and told me that I had gotten back in.
Woohoo!
Yeah. And I was just like,
You did it.
yeah, that moment for me was just like, wow, like I actually did it, you know? And that was like a moment of hope. It was like the smallest amount of hope that I was finally going to get out of my darkness, which was really dark at the time. Mm-hmm. And I remember driving to Texas A&M with all my stuff in my car. And I remember on the drive there, I had this moment where I was like, holy shit, like everything behind me, the road behind me, like it's all behind me. Like I made it out. I made it out of that. And now I have an opportunity to have a new life. Like I was looking ahead of me at the road ahead, and I was like, this is a whole new life. It's a whole new world. I can literally do whatever I want to do. I can create whatever I want to create, you know? And for me, I was like, you know, once I get this degree, right, I was like, I can go to school. I can learn something. I can make something out of my life. Right. And no one in my family had graduated college. Right. I was the first child to graduate, but I was first child to even like actually go and like really pursue it fully. And so for me, I just saw opportunity. I had hope and I saw opportunity, and I had to pull over on the side of the road because I was just breaking down from everything I had just gone through. And then also from just this new beginning that I feel like I was gifted. And I knew that's all I needed. Mm-hmm. All I needed was an opportunity. All I needed was a new beginning. You know, and that's where I come from. And that's why I think I'm so easily able to see people in the middle of their mess and know that there's so much more for them, because that was me.
Yeah. I mean, we were on your couch the other day and I asked you, like, Emily, how the heck can we duplicate your drive and the feeling in this house? And you said, well, it wasn't always this way. And I really think that's what you were referring to when you were like, yeah, Meagan, I didn't just wake up with determination one day and drive. And it's all of those compounding moments that led you to see that, okay, one stone on top of each other, there's hope. Mm-hmm.
And it's a consistent decision to just not quit. That's literally it. There were moments I wanted to just, I was like, why anything, right? And I chose over and over, just in the moment, not to quit. I didn't make a big life decision. I'm never going to quit. I had it in me. I was like, I can't quit. I know I can't quit. And over, I chose that. And eventually, when you practice that, what you're practicing is actually you're practicing overcoming. And I'm now addicted to overcoming because I know the power that's on the other side of that. Every time you overcome a small thing, even if it's something as small as, like, let's say that you struggle with food, right? And you say, you know what, I don't know if I can have a whole grasp on this food thing, but in this moment, my choice is to overcome, right? And you just overcome it for that small moment. That small moment, when you practice that over and over again, you're going to gain so much strength. You're going to feel invincible.
Yeah, I truly and honestly think that is a great example of one of the next questions I have. And it's when you were coming up. I hate that word, but I feel like it's appropriate.
I'm like, I'm not even up yet.
No, but when you were just getting started, right? When you were kickstarting, okay. I feel like there was a whole gang of people. And I feel like everyone came up with words, right? They were like flashy words that they would use in their marketing to attract people. But I never feel like that was you. I feel like you wholeheartedly embody every single word you use. Oh my God, Meagan, don't cry. But it's crazy because I was just watching one of your videos, and you know, if it's not evolve, it's undeniable. If it's not one thing, it's another. The words you choose aren't just like words you find on the thesaurus when you're trying to use a different word. It's what you actually feel in your soul that you need to become or that you can become. When did you decide that you were going to start attaching and embodying words in your life and everything that you do?
That's a good question. I don't think I made a conscious decision of like, oh, I need to attach a word. I think I would just kind of ask myself, where am I in my life and what do I need to be in order to become who I am? Like in order to come into who I already am, right? Because I have this inner belief and this knowing that we already are everything. We're just walking out the steps and kind of undoing all the things that aren't us and coming more into alignment with who we were created to be. I don't think people are going from, you know, one point and turning into something completely different. I think it's who they were all along. But life experiences and failures and troubles and mental struggles and whatever it is takes us further and further away from this precious creation that we were from day one. So I think it's really about identifying, okay, where am I at? What is the current season that I'm in? And what is it that I need to focus on? For example, you mentioned undeniable. It was in a point in my life where I was sharing my bikini prep series, and I was, you know, sharing my journey to pro. And I knew that if I gave it everything in me, did one day at a time, that I would get to where I'm going. So I was like, well, what do I have to be in order to become a professional athlete? I was like, I have to be undeniable. Well, what does that mean? It means I have to be undeniable today, in this moment. This meal has to be undeniable. This small, you know, bit of cardio has to be undeniable. This training session, this rep, this set, like I had to break it down moment by moment, because when you place severe importance on every small moment, that's where you're going to get to where you want to go, right? It's the people that overlook the details. They overlook the small things, thinking that it only matters if you reach a big goal, thinking that when I'm in a bikini prep, that it only matters if I reach my weight goal at the end of the week, right? If you only focus on that, then maybe you're slipping up on 2 reps in this workout and slipping up on 30 extra grams of carbs during this day, right? But if you're like, this is the set that makes or break me. This is the cardio minute that makes or break me. This is the meal that makes or breaks me, right? I have all the judges and the entire audience is watching my every moment and my every move. And if I'm undeniable right now in this moment, I'll get to where I'm going. And guess what that does? That creates an insane amount of drive, dedication, consistency, every single day, moment by moment. And when you do that, there's no way you won't get to where you're going.
Yes. And I have experienced that in this household, that I just want to be better every day I'm here, because you can feel it. Like I can tell in everything you do. No one will ever know everything you do. I will not know, even if I'm here with you, because you place such importance on every single thing, whether it's going into your meditation room and being with God, meditating, finding stillness. There is excellence in there. If you are on a call, it is excellence. If you are sleeping, let's hope it's excellence. You know what
Always.
I mean?
I love my sleep.
It's one of those things where it's like, no stone is unturned, really. And it's something that people can hear you say, like, oh yes, every day I do this, I put importance on this. It's those moments, but to see it and to be around it, it's completely different, and it changes the people around you. And I want to bring it back to one time I was sitting next to you on an airplane, and we were just about to take off, and you heard that you got your apartment that you wanted in California. And I just want to talk about life transitions for a moment, because I know for a lot of people, life transitions are so hard. They don't know how to handle them. They don't know what to do. They aren't sure, like, oh my gosh, is this the worst decision ever? Or can this change my life? And so can you just talk a bit on how you handle your life transitions? Because I mean, you've had a few major transitions in your life, and to the outsider, it looks as if they've almost never happened, because you handle them so gracefully and you don't make a big deal about them to the outside world. So,
sorry, I keep because I'm like listening to your perspective on it, and obviously it's different when you're actually experiencing it. So it's it's very interesting.
I'm here for the people.
Yeah, it's very interesting to me that you have this perspective, right? Because to me, it feels like a big deal. So for you to feel like maybe it doesn't seem like a big deal to me, that's very interesting to me. But okay, so going into life transitions, you know, I think about that moment that you're speaking about, and it, you know, it was definitely a very difficult season of my life. You know, I was young and going through a divorce, something that I never would have planned or wanted for my life. It felt like my whole world was literally ripped in two. It felt like a loss. It felt like a death. I felt like a total failure. I felt like I just felt like horrible on every end. But here's the thing that I've really learned in all areas of life is that life is cyclical, right? And there you have really, really amazing moments, like those most incredible moments of life. Maybe before that moment, it was walking across the stage at Texas A&M and doing this little like thing in the air, you know, raising my hands like, hell yes. Like I just put myself through school. I was the first one in my family to do it. I overcame all this stuff to do it. That's like a high moment that I would refer to, right? And then I have these low moments, whether it's like a loss of a friend or it's going through a divorce or something like that. I've just experienced enough of the cycles and the ups and the downs of life that I'm fully understanding that no matter where you're at, it doesn't stay there. Mm-hmm. And so when I come to this transition, especially if it's a really difficult transition, I remind myself of the truth. And the truth is I'm not always going to feel this way. So because of that, it's actually okay to feel it. And I think that during that transition, that's what I really told myself. You know, after I got back from that trip and I actually moved into that apartment, there was a moment where I get into the apartment, it's empty, and I go from a full house of dogs and my husband at the time to a completely empty apartment, no furniture, no dogs, and quiet. And that quiet feeling couldn't have been louder.
It's deafening.
Yeah. And I fell to my knees on the kitchen floor, and the kitchen was literally like 6 feet maybe.
I went there once. Yeah.
Yeah. And I fell to my knees and I broke down. And it's one of the moments in my life I would say I was like sobbing. Like I was really just at that really, really hard, dark moment. And what I told myself in that moment was everything. I said, Emily, feel it. Mm-hmm. Feel all of it. And I did. And I allowed myself to feel it. I felt every single ounce of it. And then I said, okay, now get up. And I did. And I got up, I put a playlist on, and I went to the gym, and I continued on. And that's the thing, is you have to understand that life is going to happen, and it truly is your response, right? Things will knock you down. Things will beat you up. It'll make you black and blue sometimes. But you just have to choose to understand that it's just another hit of life, and there's something good coming. There is good in your future, and you can't get so distracted or so down by your current circumstances that you can't see past that. You have to look through. You can't just look at what's right there at the surface value. You got to say, what's on the other end of this, right? And if I'm going through this life transition, if I've made this decision for myself, no matter how hard it is, I know there's something better on the other side, and I have to keep fighting for that, because you're going to feel like not fighting. You're going to feel like, this is why am I here? There's why would I fight for this pain? But you got to understand that there's purpose on the other side of that pain, and you can use that pain to create more purpose in your life, more fulfillment in your life. And guess what? You're going to be able to relate to so many other people just based on your life experiences, right? Like, how comforting is it when you're experiencing something and someone reaches out to you and they're like, hey, I've been there. I know what that feels like. Like, it's okay. You know, I've made it through, and you'll make it through too. And for me, I know when people have done that for me, it's given me so much hope. And sometimes that's all I need. Mm-hmm. Sometimes in those dark moments, all you need is the smallest amount of hope in order to get through. And then guess what? You get through. And then you get to the other side and you say, thank God I didn't give up.
Yes. And I think the thing that's so hard for so many people is they get so stuck on the surface level of why is this happening to me, and it's never going to end. And eventually they just get into this cycle where it does never end, because they're not looking at the possibilities. And you said earlier, just give me the opportunity and I'll make it work. That is something that I believe so many people don't have. Nobody sees the sacrifices that happen before the opportunity. And I think that's something that's so important to just kind of share with the world. Not, you don't have to, but just in general, like, even people, me being here for a month, they're like, well, that's just great. I'm like, you don't know everything I had to give up to be here for a month.
Yeah.
But that's just like a tiny example. But there are so much sacrifice before the opportunity. And it's what you said, every single day, just going over and over, doing the best you can in that moment. And that, I just think that's something so many people need to hear, and that I love that you just talked on. So my question to you here is, when you became, like, when you were going into yourself and you were journaling and you were writing about God, I feel like you were doing it before it was a thing. And like, now on the internet, it is real. Like, everyone does it. It's like very common, but you were so true to yourself from the very, very beginning. How were you okay in knowing that you were going to post something that not many people were talking about, or, you know, just share your inner thoughts? And I tried to find it this morning, but I couldn't. I reposted something of yours way back when, and it was a screenshot of your journal. Mm-hmm. It was like your journal entry for the day. Mm-hmm. And you would just share those. You were serving us the best spiritual goodness before it was even a thing. Why did you feel like you were called to share that?
This comes from my heart posture, right? I'm not like, okay, for layman's terms, sometimes I might say something to people when they ask me what I do. Maybe I'll say content producer. Sometimes I don't say that at all. But that's like a term we use, right? And everyone now is a content producer, whatever. I never really have been a content producer. The truth is I just share me and my experiences, right? For example, when I back in, you know, probably 2013, when I was posting those, or maybe 16, whenever that was, I was just sharing what was on my heart. I was never creating content. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I think that's the difference is we live in this world now where people are curating feeds and they're curating an idea of what they want other people to think about them. Whereas the way that I have been and always been is leading by example from the front. I'm not creating anything. I'm sharing lived experiences. So when I chose to share my journal entry, they were thoughts and things that I was navigating or working through. And I wanted to share with people how I was navigating through my stuff, so that they could then reflect and navigate on their own stuff. I was never from a position of like, let me create this cool spiritual content, you know, like I hardly ever create stuff like that. You know what I mean? And that's the thing is I think that leaders should always lead by example and lead from the front. And you can only do that if you're truly living out what it is that you're sharing. So everything that I share, the good, the bad, and the ugly, comes from personal experience, right? Sometimes it comes from client experience or something that I help them navigate. But oftentimes everything that I'm talking about comes from me first walking through it.
Well, that answered my next question, because I was going to say, how do you feel confident sharing that? But you've lived it.
Yeah.
And you feel it, and it's true. I just feel like a lot of times when it comes to sharing personal stuff or just sharing your thoughts or things like that, it can get clouded by a lot. And I was in this class the other day, and they said that your truth is never wrong. Your intuition knows what's up. It just gets clouded by your intellect. Mm-hmm. And I think that's like such a stopper for so many people. And I just love that you share what's true to you and what you're going through. And I think that it's something that we all, as your people, benefit from. And we have been for so long before it was even, you know, popular or curated on the feed. So thank you for sharing that. Mm-hmm. When was the first time you ever realized that you could help people change their life?
It had to have been my women's fitness boot camp, which was before I even started my social media. So let's see, I graduated in December 2012 from Texas A&M, and then January 2013, so a month later, I opened my own women's fitness boot camp. So I'd have groups of, I think, 8 girls at a time, multiple times a day, multiple times a week, come in. It was successful right off the bat because I was like the fitness person in my group, which is awesome. But I just saw how something so simple, like a group workout, how it was like impacting every other part of their life. Like these girls would come to me and some of them would like cry before or after our sessions telling me how like, they're like, I'm feeling so much more confident and I'm being a better student and a better girlfriend, or, you know, they were just improving in all aspects of life, literally just from working out together and the environment that was created and the challenge and, you know, them achieving their goals in fitness and in nutrition. And I just remember being like, this is powerful. Like, this is not just a workout, you know, this is something that's literally changing their lives. And I remember at that moment, that's when I was like, okay, this is where I want to be.
I was listening to you give a call the other day, like a creep. And
I saw you sitting on the floor.
I was just sitting on the floor with the dogs. I was like, listen, I need to watch mommy dogs. Calm down.
Yeah.
And I realized then, because I haven't seen you really do anything like this because I have been out of your sphere for a little bit, but I forgot how much of a pull you have to community, and not just community in the way where like, give me your email address so I can monetize you later. It's like,
that's so real.
it's real community.
Yeah.
And I'm taken aback by it because I'm so used to the whole like, come in my community, but make sure you put your email address in. And you give so many fucks about these people. And it's so amazing to see the importance you put on community, and you always have. And so when you just told that story about your women's boot camp, it started there. And do you think your community and your drive for creating community came from you being so lonely?
Ooh, therapist Meagan over here. Oh my goodness. I've actually never thought about that question.
Well, let's think about it.
Let's think about it. I mean, here's the thing. I think these answers, yes, right? I come from a big family, so I always had brothers and sisters around me, right? And then going through this period of isolation was horrible. It was something I'd never experienced before, you know, and I longed for and missed like those brotherly and sisterly connections and that community aspect. So I think unconsciously, without knowing it, 100% yes.
I mean, Stronger as a community is a real thing that we used to promote all the time.
Yeah.
Because it was something you believed in so hard. And I never knew, I guess back then, like the actual genuine pull you had towards community until I saw you the other day, and it's been 7 years and you're still just as passionate about community. And like, that's not something you can fake. Like that is something that you feel that you are creating and you are a part of and you are dedicated to. And that's just something that I can say, because I talk to creators every single day. That's not something that people do. So congratulations to you on giving so many people access to you in a way that is so good for their soul. I feel like I was just, observing, and the way that people trust you, Emily, is just next level. They trust you in a way where, I mean, I don't think that they trust many people. I mean, I literally rolled up here and you were like, all right, come sit next to me on this chair. We're going to meditate. And just close your eyes in this random place you've never been. I promise I'm safe. And we're going to meditate. And it's that trust that you don't even know you have, and the power that you hold that just allows people to feel so comfortable in your presence and that they are safe. And I think that it's something you can't duplicate, but it's definitely something that you've learned probably from experiences of you being like, I don't like that, so I'm not going to do that. And I want to know, when did you get good at like talking to people who came up to you? I really think it's not that's a skill. Like being able to interact with people you don't know and give them your full attention. And in a world where being present is so hard, I mean, you are great at being present in everything you do, but you give people who come up to you just so much attention and presence. Like, when did you get good at that, or were you always good?
It's not that hard.
It is.
No, listen, it's literally not hard. All you have to do is be present, look in their eyes, and care. Literally, you just have to care. That's literally the difference. If you actually care, you're going to ask questions. If you actually care, you're going to wonder about their heart's content, what's going on with them, what's going on in their mind, right? Like, what are they passionate about? What lights them up? What makes them feel alive on this earth? And encourage them in that and be like, yes, you can do that. You know, I feel like I've always been able to see people's potential, like from day one. You know, I had a friend come to an expo who I didn't know her at the time, but, we became friends later. And she was like, hi, like, this is my story. I've been following you and I'm thinking about moving to California and all this stuff. And I was like, 100% yes, and this, that, and that, and whatever. And she ends up getting a job, moving to California, all this stuff. And she had voiced later that my belief in her really helped her. But here's the thing. It's not like a fake puff you up belief. Like, I know that you can do it, but sometimes people just need that reflective, mirror towards them. So when people come up to me, one, I just genuinely care. I genuinely care. I genuinely love people. I do. And so I think coming from that heart's position, I'm able to hold a space where then they can open up and share themselves and feel, like you mentioned, like they can feel trusting enough to be able to be vulnerable, even in small ways. And when that is respected and it's mirrored back to them, that safety, that trust, that respect, I feel like it does a lot for people. And sometimes all they need is somebody just to look back at them and be like, yep, that's it. Go ahead. Go do it.
I will say, when you told me I would be great at podcasting, I screen recorded that shit and saved it. And I was like, I need to make sure I have that for days when I want to quit.
And
so
here's the thing. I don't tell people that, you know what I mean? Here's the thing. I think that the most loving thing that you can do is speak the truth. And I think that you have to speak the truth in love, right? Mm-hmm. So if we're not going to be a good podcaster at all, I wouldn't be like, wow, you're terrible, you suck, right?
Right.
But would I give you my honest feedback if it was a horrible podcast? Yeah, I honestly would have. I would have been like, hey, like, I really admire you trying. Like, that's amazing. Now, here are some things that I think would be really helpful if you were to have asked for my actual feedback and opinion, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to pull a Missy Elliott and put that thing down, flip it and reverse it real quick.
Okay.
Because I want to start talking to you about your coming into your true identity. And I really, really, when I saw you the other day in those pants and the backwards hat and you just being completely swagged out in Emily versus me watching you 5 years ago on YouTube, I was like, the Emily I'm looking at right now is the Emily who she's always wanted to be. And I really want to talk about kind of like what it looked like in this entire season of just discovering who you are. Because I don't think 5 years ago you would have worn that.
Really?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
No.
I really and honestly truly believe who you are now and the vibe that you are putting out is so authentically you and aligned with who your soul is. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just a reflection of you. And I think as, you go through experiences as you were talking about, and as you age and as you do all these things, you just start to care less about other people.
That's true.
But like, can you talk about like maybe just moving into this house or moving back to Texas? Like, I think that was a large, you're like, I'm going back to me. Mm-hmm. I think that was like a reconnect. Can you just kind of talk a little bit about how it's been kind of walking in your truth?
Yeah, I think discovering who you are is a lifelong journey. Mm-hmm. And I am excited and thrilled to continue discovering that. Like, if I think that I have a wrap on me fully right now, I'm sure it's nothing compared to like the 40-year-old version of me, which, oh my God, that's in 10 years.
She's still going to be a gangster.
Don't say that. No, I'm kidding. But truly think about it. Like, so when I was 20 years old, did I know who I was? I mean, up until that point, yeah, but I had no idea compared to 30-year-old Emily. Like, 20-year-old Emily, let me just shake you by the shoulders a little bit and let me just lay some knowledge on you and tell you, Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. That's what life is for. Life is this beautiful journey of exploring and developing and understanding more about yourself and the world and the people around you. And, you start to identify your core values and what really matters most to you. And earlier you mentioned community, and I don't know if you know this, it's written downstairs, but community is one of my core values of Evolve, my brand.
I didn't know that.
Okay. Yeah. It's literally written downstairs. Love, service, and community. And so you learn these things, right? And maybe before I was doing it without, like, for example, back then I never identified, okay, community is a core value of mine. However, I was like creating communities all over, right? Mm-hmm. Like I was just naturally, instinctively doing it because it was part of who I was, but I wasn't very clear on that. Right. And now that I've done a lot of work on myself, I've taken time to journal and ask myself these questions. And, that's a really good way to get to know yourself, is to ask yourself really good questions. And when I've done that, then I've identified, okay, one of my core values is community. So knowing that, I place an importance on that. For example, I have my online communities, and you keep referring to that Evolve X Worldwide mentorship call that I have, which if you guys are listening, everyone is welcome to join. The link is always in the description show notes. So I have that. But for example, I'm traveling a ton this month. And so it's been really important for me to schedule family time, to schedule, friendship dates and things that honestly makes my schedule a little crazy, but community is so important to me. And, life is not always promised, right? And I'm going on all these planes and all these things, and I never live life in fear, but I don't want it to be too long since I've seen my family or hugged a friend or, poured into somebody that I love. And I don't want to get so wrapped up in work that I'm not focusing on these things, right? So I think that as you go along your personal development journey, you'll discover more about who you are. And then once you identify who you are, it becomes really clear who and what you are not. And once you identify that, you can start to kind of get those things, whether it's people or situations or jobs or your own habits, thoughts, and beliefs that don't serve you and don't align with you, you can get those out. And here's the thing. I'm not perfect in this. I've never been perfect. I mess up all the time. I do things that are out of alignment with myself. but it's not about being perfect. It's not about never messing up. It's about recognizing when you're out of alignment and being like, how did I get on this path? And then just realigning yourself, right? I've had so many moments like that where, you know, I felt like I was so good and so aligned and doing so great. And then it was like one little decision to the left, right? And that one little left decision. And then I just kept making decisions in that lane, not realizing that all of a sudden that lane took me way over here. And then I find myself at this spot and I'm like, how did I get here? And I go back and identify it started with this one little decision that was out of alignment with myself. That led me down a whole different path that can be used for good and will be used for purposeful things, you know, but that maybe I didn't really have to go on. You know what I mean? I think a lot of our life, it's not just destiny, it's actually choice. Aristotle has a quote. It says, choice, not chance, determines our destiny, right? Our choices really matter. Our response to things really matter. And I can look back and identify areas of my life where I made certain decisions that led me down a path that provided for a lot of hurt and a lot of learning lessons in my life, right? And so now it's not about shaming myself or judging myself or, you know, anything like that. It's really just about being self-aware and always asking myself, am I in alignment with that highest version of myself that I know that I am and that I know that I am becoming every single day? And again, it's not about becoming because you already are it, but it's just walking in that every single day.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but Ed Milet says when he dies, he wants to meet the highest version of his, like he says he has a twin, and he wants to meet him and he wants him to be proud of him when he gets there. So every decision he makes is based off of that. Like, will that version of me be proud?
Yeah.
And if somebody is listening, struggling and wondering, well, I just don't see any potential. I'm really not good at anything. I just have no light in my life. Like, where do people start? It's just a very hard road when all you see is black.
Yeah, no kidding. I think what you look for, you will find. So if you're finding yourself in darkness, look for the light. The light could be in the smile of a stranger at the grocery store, right? It could be a friend or a loved one. It could be a positive post that you see on Instagram and you choose to comment and comment something nice and positive back, right? You're choosing what energy you're putting out there versus you feel like you're in darkness. So you surround yourself with dark humor and dark memes and other people with darkness. And it's almost like, you know, pity likes a party, right? So it's like, it's not to diminish the darkness that you're going through. That's very real. But if you'll have the awareness that what I choose to do in this darkness is everything, and I can either choose to surround myself with more darkness or I can choose to find even the smallest sliver of light, right? And then choosing to make sure that every single decision that you make is producing the outcome that you want, right? So let's say that you're sitting in the darkness, and are you choosing every single day to sit with the lights off? Are you choosing every single day to not get up and go outside and go for a walk? Right? Like, get yourself into the tiniest little decisions that will bring even the smallest amount of light to you. Even if it's literally going for a 5-minute walk in the sunshine every single day, that little decision can build up to, okay, well, since I'm already outside in the sun, I'm going to throw a podcast on. Let me just listen to a small podcast. That podcast sparks a little thought, a little idea. Someone shares how they journaled about a self-reflective question. You're like, well, let me journal and ask myself that question. So then you ask yourself that question. That answer to that question provides revelation and reality of why it is the way that you are, right? Or like, it provides clarity for why you had to go through what you went through. And it provides something else for you. You have that clarity, and then you're like, now I know what I need to do moving forward. Now I know how not to repeat that same thing, right? So it's, if you can see, it's like this little trail, and if you'll follow this little trail, it leads you to a completely different place. So if you're in that darkness, sometimes you don't have to have a huge floodlight that shone on you. You have to just get the smallest amount and follow it little by little.
So I think that, just kind of going off the darkness, you have referred to yourself as a failure before. And I never in my life, I think because I don't like play hard enough, like I've never considered myself a failure. Why do you identify with the word failure?
So I don't identify with the word failure. I have failed in my life.
Right. But I was, okay, so you said failure earlier, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but then you also said it in a vlog I was watching a while ago. And so I guess, why is that in your vocabulary?
Because it's reality. I think it's not reality to say that we don't fail at something.
Right. I've just never, like, Here's the thing. I don't think I play hard enough ever to be a failure at something.
That's real.
I don't think that I'm in it enough.
That's real.
So
here's the thing. I give my 100%. I give everything to everything I do so that when I succeed, I know it's because of that. And when I fail, I know that I actually failed. And here's the thing. I always say failure is not true failure if you will simply not quit, right? Mm-hmm. If you quit, that's failure. But the reality is we have failed experiences of things. We have failed moments of things, which yes, are all learning opportunities and moments, blah, blah, blah. I always rephrase it that way. Yes, but failure exists. Sometimes you get first and sometimes you're motherfucking last.
That's right. So yeah, okay, I'm not competitive. So there's like nothing in me that ever wants to win.
Oh, wow.
Ever. And I know that that's something that people like don't understand, but okay, that makes sense because I was just thinking like how odd of a word that is. Because like it's just never one that I use, but it's one that you have mentioned a few times. So
here's the thing. Failure also makes me feel alive. I hate it. I don't like experiencing it, but it's what happens after the failure that I love because I learn more than I've ever learned. I implement it and then I succeed. And when you succeed after failing multiple times, dude, that feels good.
Now, what makes you excited to try again after you failed?
Because I'm not going to quit. I'm like, it's just not an option. I wouldn't say that I'm like excited. I would just say, all right, I failed. Let's go again.
When is a time recently in your life you felt the most fulfilled?
The most fulfilled? Probably any day this week being here. You know, I am in a really incredible spot in my life. I love having you in the house. I mentioned that earlier. Like I literally love just like, even if you're upstairs and I'm downstairs, I love like the little bustle and stuff. As long as it's not you throwing a water bottle on the floor or tapping the other day.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
It was like the worst timing on planet Earth. I was like, the bad timing all day. It was bad timing all day. And I was like, I'm just going to be quiet for a week so everyone forgets I was loud that one day.
It was so funny. I was on a call and she like, all I hear is like screaming and banging. And I'm like, I'm on a call, guys.
And then it was the worst day too. Cause I was like, I swear I'm not pregnant, but I'm dropping everything. And I just like, feel like I'm like, I swear everyone I'm not. And then she's like, Jess is like, she's on a call. I'm like, well, that was inconvenient. I mean, I was just dropping everything. I dropped hot sauce that morning. It was just a bad day.
It's okay. I have those days too. But yeah, okay. So back to your question, feeling fulfilled. You know, have you in the house with such a positive light and energy. I, you know, spend time with God and that fulfills me like nothing else. Like his love and peace is on me right now in a really strong way. And I recently went through kind of like a feeling like I was in this like dry season and spiritually. And so to not feel like I'm in that anymore and to feel that connection and to feel and hear his voice again it's life-giving to me. I'm in jiu-jitsu right now and I literally drive to jiu-jitsu with a massive smile on my face. I'm like,
before the sun is even out.
Yeah. And then, you know, at 6:45 a.m., I'm like, you know, having an instructor, someone on me being like, see, and then if you do that, you're fucked.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it's 6:45 a.m. This is how we're starting this, you know, but I love it. It's fulfilling to me in so many ways that I didn't expect it to be fulfilling. One, the community aspect, right? I've been in bodybuilding for so long and that can be such a isolating thing, right? You go and you train alone every single day. You're doing cardio alone every single day. And I'm alone a lot. So like when I'm able to go and be a part of a group and you're sitting there and you're, you know, literally like rolling with each other, right? So it's like physical touch, it's everything. You're getting that community aspect, that tribal aspect, which I believe that we all have inside of us. At the end, you do this little like, you know, bow thing and like, you know, you tell everyone like good training and stuff. And I love it. Like I love that interaction with them. I'm learning so much and I love being a student of life. I love learning. So like that alone is fulfilling me in so many ways. It's challenging me. I'm in this push season of life right now where I'm pushing myself to be my best in every aspect of my life, physical, mental, and spiritual. That's a part of my new YouTube series, which if you guys haven't seen that yet, it might be live by the time this podcast is live. So definitely check it out on YouTube. If not, it'll come in a week or two. But, you know, I love doing that. I love sharing how I'm overcoming certain things in my life. Like it fulfills me so much to do that. I had my Evolve X Worldwide call the other night, like pouring into other people's lives. So my life is just fulfilling right now.
That's amazing.
I could go on. There's a lot more, but I'm like, I should stop there. But like, I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful because I've had other seasons that were not like this. But right now, every moment of my life is very fulfilling.
It's just so amazing to see the growth that has happened over the past, 5, 7, 9 years. And just to watch you navigate such seasons in a way that it just allows everyone to realize it's possible. And I did a podcast on you before I started talking to you again, and you were probably like, what is happening? But I said that you are the leader on a dark path, and each step you take, you add a light for the people behind you. And I truly believe that. I truly believe that is what you do in everything you do, because you don't even know you're doing it. But in something so simple as me moving into a house, I was like, I've never lived alone in a house. I don't know how to do this. You had just done it. It felt like you were lighting the path forward. And so even in like the smallest moments of you sharing, I think that's when you say the most. And I just have one last thing written down, and I think it's just a complete encapsulation of who you are, like through and through. And you were talking about how you had to go do leg day, and you said, my determination is, oh, just kidding, I fucked up the punchline already. You said my motivation is 8, my energy is 10, and my determination, and then you cut to you working. And I think you've always led with your actions speaking louder than your words. And I don't even know if you did that purposely, but to me,
I did.
That is who you are. You are your actions, and people can't say that. People can say they are their words. They can talk a big game, but I think if anyone's listening, and maybe this is the first time they're hearing you share about you in this way, like, they need to know that you are exactly who you say you are, and your actions are the truest part about you.
That means the world to me. Thank you so much. And, that was a really core motivator for starting this new YouTube series, because I can sit here on my podcast and talk all day long about everything that I've done and these life lessons, being uncomfortable, overcoming, being a student, but it's a whole different thing to live it, right? And I hadn't done a series where I shared my life in that way in a long time. So, I'm really excited to get back into those, YouTube series that a lot of people used to watch, and just literally just share my life and show what it is that I'm actually doing.
Sweet.
Sweet.
I am just so grateful that you've given me the space and the time to ask you questions and just connect with you on a level that, I get to connect with you on your couch, but many people don't get to. And I just want to end it with this one thing. We were on the phone before I got here, and you said, okay, well, bring your goals because I want to help you. And I was like, sure, goals. Okay, maybe. Sure, I'll think of a few. Literally, the first thing you said to me when we sat down at your table were like, so what are your goals? And dude, your follow through on the tiniest things. And I think it just comes back to putting the importance on every single moment. Like, it's so real. And I think it's just like being here and being in your presence. It's just like, okay, cool. Like, people are like, well, how'd you do that? It's just like, no, you don't get it. I'm here for a different reason. I'm here for bettering myself. And the fact that you allowed me to do it is just so amazing, because again, you see things in people before they can see it in themselves. And for you to follow through on asking me about me, or when you filmed me walking into Alpha Land and I like joked and people were like, what the heck is happening? By the way, I still need that video.
You don't have it?
No.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Airdrop it to you right after this.
So it was just one of those things where it's like, you always think about other people and you're like, how can I help you? But you're so intentional. And it's not just like, oh yeah, let me help you. It's like, no, I
love when you mimic.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, it's amazing.
It's just who I am as a human.
If you guys are not watching the video, you need to watch a video. I love when you mimic that.
And it's just so attention focused, and you are a very busy human. And I know that the time I do get to have real conversations is time that I don't take for granted. And so I just want to say thank you for having this conversation, for inviting me into your space, and for taking time to talk to me and give me book suggestions and, you know, just nurture me as a human. It means a lot. So thank you.
Of course. I think the greatest things of you. You're literally such a light. You're like this angel, and other people that are important in my life have reflected the same thing. I know, you know who I'm talking about.
Which is so funny because I don't, you know, like when you are a beam of light, like you don't know because it's just your baseline.
Exactly. And that's the thing.
So it's so nice when you say that. I'm like, oh, me?
I feel the same way. That's why when you mention certain things, I'm like, what? Like, it's normal, you know? So I totally understand what you're saying there. But truly, like, I could say the same. You're bringing so much light to my life. So I just love that you're here. And, you know, another really big core value of mine is mentorship, right? I think that mentorship is key because, like you said, some people just, they need someone to show them the way. So if I can do that in the tiniest way, like, why would I not do that? You know, and I think that we are here not just for the development of ourselves and to go into our own highest potential, but the more that you step into your I just mimicked. I just realized I just did that.
Welcome. You've been influenced.
I have been, dang it. No, but you know, the more that you go into your highest potential, I think the more that you realize the reason you're here is to serve and to give back and to help others. So that's the way that I really aim to live my life. Awesome. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Evolve with Emily. Thank you, Meagan, for all the amazing questions.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. If you guys want to have her on another show while she's here, then send the Evolve with Emily podcast a DM on Instagram and let us know what you would like us to talk about. Meagan does have a podcast. So as you guys can see, she's really incredible at it. So shout out your podcast.
Thank you. It's called The Season of You Talk Show, and it's on YouTube, on all podcast platforms, and you can actually watch it on video on Spotify.
Hey, so we will put all the links down below. Please do us a favor if you enjoyed this episode, share, like, subscribe, rate, review the show, do all the things to help the show grow. We would really appreciate it. And we'll see you guys in another episode of Evolve with Emily. Bye, guys.
Peace out.